everyone. Welcome back. This is the beginning of season 2 to the Balance to Excellence podcast show. Please like, subscribe, comment. You can listen to this wherever you listen to your podcast, and you can listen on YouTube or you can view on YouTube. But definitely comment, subscribe, and share with those you know. I am Dr. Judy Wright. I am a physician and a wellness and performance strategist. And here on the Balance to Excellence show, we talk about balance and stress management and all the good things of wellness for healthcare professionals. So please come and join us. We always want to see what you're saying in the comments. And I promise we're going to comment back. Okay? So today with me, I am so excited. I really am excited. Today with me, I have Dr. Wendy Schofer. Dr. Chauffeur is a dual board certified pediatrician and a lifestyle physician, and she is a trauma-informed professional health and wellness coach, and she's an improv comedian. And I can tell you, I'm already laughing. Like, we've been talking for a few minutes, and I've been laughing uncontrollably, right? So she is creating a unique way to improve health for families. She is the founder of Family in Focus, and she teaches parents mindset and emotional regulation, practical strategies and tools to address stress about their family's weight and mental health without introducing diets or having food fights. Oh, we're going to need to talk about that. Okay. And she has a unique approach focusing on fun and relationships and helping families to not only grow, but thrive and connect. So welcome, Dr. Chauffeur. Thank you so much for coming on. I'm really excited about our chat today.
Okay, I am just going to admit, as soon as you said it, I got all giddy. I'm honored to be here at the kickoff for season 2. That's so awesome. Oh my gosh. Wait, just pop it open. That's cool. Such a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, thank you so much. So now, did I get anything wrong? I just want to make sure that I presented it correctly.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking the entire time, who wrote that? That sounds pretty amazing.
Who wrote that? Who's she talking about?
They are all just, in evolution. And it's so funny how, when I'm asked about my bio, I'm like, I don't know what to put down, what to focus on and everything. And then when I hear somebody else read it, when it's outside of my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, no, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. But, as you're trying to construct it, it's just a hot mess because that there's so many different threads and aspects and, what is it that I really want to be able to convey here? And, I'm just going to say, I'm summarizing it as, really looking at the whole person, the whole family. And, yes, that involves relationships and fun. And, it's not all the nitty gritty that we keep on focusing on and get all the food fights and, all the things. It's like, oh, how can we just kind of take that breath and exhale and connect and really just, find a new way forward. So which I think is fun, just even thinking of the concept that there's a new way that we can approach all of this and it works for us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Chauffeur, could you share, because from being a pediatrician, and of course you work with children, and how did you get from being a pediatrician to where you are now, which you're still a pediatrician, of course, but you're also wellness coaching and coaching families. And how did you get to that? What was your journey getting to that?
Oh, it's dirty. It was ugly. We talk about the whole roller coaster, but that's the thing. There's no linear story with any of this. As I try to relay it in a story, though, really it's something that I found that I had so much fun in the office. And then, of course, focusing so much on my patients, who always had, more needs than what I was able to really be able to address. I just didn't feel like I was able to really provide what it is that they needed in the office. And then by the time I got home, I was like completely spent. And then, so I, as a parent, didn't feel like I had what I needed.
Mm.
I was always searching for more support. I was so stressed out. And I would describe about how I gave 100% in the office, and then I had like zero left over for my own family. And, as I think about that now, I think that that's so often what's happening for us as parents, that we're just like giving, giving, giving. There's so many things that are like zapping our energy, and we have nothing left over for what is most important to us. And quite honestly, nothing left over for ourselves. But going back to that, tying it in with the clinical side, over time, I found that I was having more and more discussions about, concerns about mental health, concerns about growth and where kids were on the growth charts. And parents were really stressed and really frustrated. They'd hear different things from so many different doctors, don't worry about this. No, now it's time to worry about it. And I was like, you know what? I got you. Let's talk about how to eat, how to move, portions, how much sweat to have, like how much sleep, all of it. I'd write it all out. And then I would say, you know what? Nothing happens overnight. Let's see you back in 3 to 6 months. And thankfully they did come back to see me.
Yes.
Thankfully they did. They didn't tell me I was crazy. But the thing is that they came back and they said, this doesn't work. I don't like to exercise. It's darn near impossible to get my kid to exercise. They don't like any of these food choices that we're trying to make here. I am having food fights, finding, candy wrappers underneath the bed. This doesn't work. And, I took a moment. I was like, you know what? I'm having the same issues, in my own home. I'm also stressed because I'm keeping an eye on where things are going on the growth curve and trying to make all these changes, which are totally getting pushback at home.
Mm.
And it just got me thinking, like, there's got to be a different way. Like, we know the book smarts, the right stuff. Like, this is, the whole eat less, move more. Okay. There's something missing. And at the same time, I was having my own burnout issues in the background there. And that's when I was introduced to what I call the language of coaching, which at the heart of it is really understanding psychology. And that was when I realized that I had never had a single psychology class in any of my training. Now, I mean that, okay, I had fabulous training. I learned all about psychiatry, psychopharmacology. I learned about developmental pediatrics. But even with that, it was always looking at, what do you need to watch out for that things are going wrong? What needs to be fixed? What do you need to prescribe? It was never about what's going right. How do things work? What is the basic operating system in the background here, instead of always looking at, well, what's broken about it? What do we have to fix? And that completely changed my approach. I mean, we're all products of our own experience. And so was my own experience of trying, these new tools on for me, how it changed my relationships. I always bring it down to relationships, my relationship with work, my relationship with my mother-in-law. That was actually the first thing that I saw that changed.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Cold, like hands down, first thing that changed. And then I started seeing how it was changing my relationships at home, my relationship with my own body. We totally have a relationship with our body, my relationship with my food, and then helping my children to be able to see and understand their relationship with their food, their bodies. And so that's where it just really changed. It changed the conversation. It's a different language that we can learn to speak. And I think that's really what I'm doing. I'm going to be on Duolingo soon. Like, it's something. Let's talk about the language of what's working.
Yes, absolutely. Because when you think about, they always did teach us. I will say this: they always did teach us, figure out where somebody is. Like, if someone smokes, where are they in the spectrum of being ready to quit? Are they even ready to quit? Because you want to talk about, here's what you need to do to quit. And they're like, I wasn't thinking about quitting.
Yeah.
Right? So you can tell them what smoking can do, but until they're ready to change that mindset, you're wasting a lot of time, right? So it's important to meet people where they are, but also to say everything's not going wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about what works for you, right? Because you want to be sustainable with whatever you put together.
Yeah.
And so that's such a great thing. And what I do love, because I'm telling you, I understand it. You're not pleasant when you feel down and burned out and you feel like you don't have anything left to give. You're not pleasant. And I know my family didn't say that. I know my kids never said that. But I know my relationship is different with them. So I totally get what you're saying. And I had to look back and say, oh, you weren't that pleasant to be around when you were in the midst of this, were you? Like you weren't. Yeah. No.
Yeah. That is when I found out that I was a pediatrician with a sailor's mouth. So, but I will spare you the details of that. But it's realizing that, it was trying to find the outlet, but also recognizing that, yeah, I wasn't pleasant to be around in certain settings. When I was in the office, like I turned everything on. Everybody's like, oh, I love Dr. Chauffeur. She's the greatest. You know what? You got to take your family and your cousin and all these different people to go see her. Well, guess what? That was further being one of those things that it was like weighing on me. Like everybody needs me.
Yeah.
Everybody needs me. Everybody wants to come and see me. I got to turn on more. And I had nothing left to give.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting that we do that because we will turn on for other people and then be home and be like, oh. So that is so interesting. So, I mean, let me ask you, because you had been burnt out and maybe burnt out more than once, or but you had been burnt out. So what would you say that was your turning point? Like, what would you say finally, because if you had it more than once,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what was the turning point for you, that most recent or last time? Let's call it the last time.
The last time.
Yes.
So the thing about the repeated episodes of burnout for me is that I didn't have the words for it then. I didn't know that's what it was. Every single time I just thought that it was something that I wasn't enough. Like I wasn't, good enough as a doctor. I couldn't work this, full-time plus schedule. I couldn't, be the mom that I wanted to be. Like I thought that was all about failings that I had because I had no other language for it. I just, I was just falling apart at the seams.
Mm-hmm.
And so clearly it was me, which I got to tell you was also part of the indoctrination that I received, during my training. That was part of the thing. Like you either sank or swam. And I was definitely sinking. And it was always kind of like, well, you got to pull yourself up. And there was nothing left to pull, nothing. And I think that what finally changed for me was actually when I started learning about the concept of burnout. And that, I heard everybody talking about it. I'm like, what is this thing? Like everybody's talking about it. I'm such a skeptic. I don't know what this could possibly be. And I was cleaning out my closet. This was actually the turning point. Okay, now I got your answer.
Yeah.
The turning point. I was cleaning out my closet. And we're a military family. We have moved many times. And there are a couple of things that I didn't actually get back out of a box after a move. And I pulled out this one t-shirt that was from back, and I'm going to call it from Burnout number 1. And I pulled it up, and on the front of it, it said the hospital logo. And on the back of it, I'm going to censor myself, but you know what it said. It said F 'em all. And I know.
She's like, I know.
I know. now you see what's behind the scenes. But this was a t-shirt that my husband made for me for that Christmas. Okay. I got this t-shirt for Christmas. I'm like, what is this? He's like, oh, it's so funny. You come home every day from work and that's exactly what you say.
Did you remember that you were saying that?
Oh yeah. Because I was
Okay.
saying it, like when he gave it to me that Christmas, I'm still doing it every single day. He's like,
Oh
it's so funny.
God.
Well, here's the thing. I put it away because I'm like, I can't wear this out in public. I don't know why you made this. Like, whatever. Let me put that away. When I got it out years later, I realized that was burnout. Because burnout, we talk about, you have exhaustion. Okay. You're having all of this depletion. And one of the things I talk about is depersonalization. And I always said, no, I don't depersonalize. I don't talk about the diabetic in room 2, or the asthmatic over here. I talk, people centered, conversations.
Yeah.
But yet I recognized when I was saying, like, of them all, I'm trying to distance myself. I'm trying to depersonalize. And it was actually what was happening for me. It wasn't depersonalization of others in the sense of my clinical setting. Like I always thought of it that way. But that's what I was actually experiencing. And I was like, it's been burnout. It's totally been burnout. And so it was more of having the compassion for myself to understand that's what was happening.
Yeah.
It was the stress that was happening there. It wasn't that there was something wrong with me. That's what totally changed it. And so our love language in our household is humor. So it took seeing that to really be able to understand what I had experienced, and then to finally say, okay, let me learn more about what's going on with burnout. What is it that I can understand and do? Because I had been in many different settings, all sorts of different, percentages of, FTE. So, all sorts of different hours and all the things. I had even had burnout in a volunteer position, like leadership of an organization as a volunteer. I'm like, dude, if you are burning out here, what is going on with you? Well, now I understand. Well, I'm coming in and trying to do everything for everyone. I'm always trying to do the very best, be the best of everything.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I'm not. I can't. But I kept on.
I love how you leaned and you're like, no, I'm not.
My kids, I'm the best mom that you've got, but I am not the best mom. I totally get that.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I've let go of trying to be that person that I'm not. And I've actually become a lot more fun since because I'm not trying to do everything. I'm like, you know what? No, that's not happening. No.
Yeah.
Mom's got to sleep. And that sleep is what's happening tonight.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. You just said something. And like I said, we've been laughing since we met. And you just said something. You're like, humor is like the love language in your house, right? And you're an improv comedian. So like, how do you utilize that? Because I can tell that doesn't leave, you don't just like take off your coat and you're like, okay, I'm going to be like this. No, like I can tell. So how do you utilize that when you're, when you're in the office or when you are coaching your families? Like, how do you use that to help your families?
So I think that first of all, looking at it, that humor is something that is really, it drives me. It's a value for me. I put humor and fun kind of in the same, place, because humor is fun makes me laugh. So, kind of works together. But I really think of it as a key value for me. Mm-hmm. And so when I am working in that place where I can utilize fun and humor, it just clicks. Now, I got to tell you, like, I do improv. Okay. I got to tell you, as I'm going around with my friends and, performing improv, I am, how do I say this? I am by far not the funniest person. I am not the quickest person on stage. And it's
Mhm.
all about, okay, I don't have to be that person. I can let go of that and recognize, where is it that I, perform? Where is it that I have my enjoyment? Where is it that I really shine? And I think that that's what I help, other people with at home. Like, how do I shine at home, and how do I help other people do that, from, kids all the way up through the ages? And, one of the rules of improv is always make your partner look good.
Okay.
Well, how do I do that? One of my clinical jobs is working in pediatric urgent care. Nobody comes to see me on their best day. Nobody, by definition, it's urgent care. Like, something crappy is going on. And so I start building that relationship with the parent, because they're my partner, making them look good.
Hmm.
How often do families
So
come in
good.
because they have concerns about their child, and they don't know, like, the whole world is falling apart? And I'm like, hey, you know what? Your kids had, a fever for an hour. It's okay. And there are a lot of my partners, and, over the years, that have been kind of upset about that. Like, why do people come in so quickly? I'm like, because they trust us, because they're looking for reassurance and calming. And so building that relationship and making the partner look good, you don't, put them down for doing that. You say, you know what? I'm so glad you brought your child in so that I could take a really good look, to really listen to what's going on. And then to be able to relay, you know what? We look good right here. Your child's body is doing exactly what it needs to do, and you're doing exactly what you need to do. And all along the way, just infusing humor,
Yeah.
because it's building that connection. It's building that relationship. It's also me just being a regular human there. It's not me like sitting, on high and being like, I am I don't know, the cure of all fevers. It just, I'm
No,
just
absolutely.
in here. And by the way, laughter is totally the best medicine.
It is totally the best medicine. And I've had my friends say, "Oh, you really should go and try to do comedy." And I was like, "No, see, if I had to go on stage to do comedy, that's not how it would work out." But just in a, you know, general fashion, like when I'll say something and I'll say it so matter of fact and they all start laughing, and I'm like, what did I say that was so funny? They're like, it's the way you tell a story. And it's because I love to laugh, and I love to, get other people to laugh. Even when I'm not specifically making you laugh, but when they do, it's like the best thing ever. So I totally understand that, but God bless you, because no, it wouldn't look the same if I was doing it on purpose. Just it wouldn't look the same.
That's, really one of those things about like the value. It's not like everybody has to come into the clinical, environment and be like, okay, I'm a comedian today. No, that does not work. That
Right.
is not your
Right.
role. And that's one of the things. Like, it's not like I'm going in there trying to play a role. It's just me being me. It is totally just me walking in. And that's why I love clinical medicine now, because I've recognized that, that humor, that fun, that is totally a value for me. And it is not a poo poo kind of value that you're like, oh, whatever, like, not here in medicine, like, fun, you do that somewhere else. No, I totally lead with it. I totally lead with it,
Yeah.
because that's what works for me. And when I get to be myself, when I get to work in my, yeah, I'll call it a zone of genius, because what else would we call
Yeah,
it?
why not?
When I work in my zone of genius, it works for everybody. And it's just, I think everybody gets to find out what works for them.
Yeah.
What is it that, is your value? What is it that really drives you? For, someone else, it might be, looking at, efficiency, or, care delivery, or maybe it's something else about relationships, or I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. But what drives you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if I said this. I know I said I'm a physician. I'm a family physician.
Mm-hmm.
And so, whereas a lot of people think that at least for me, that I identify more with internists. When I was practicing, because I no longer practice, but when I was practicing, I really identified more with the pediatricians. And when I first started practicing, I didn't understand why. But when you're talking to a pediatrician, them having to deal with the family is almost built in. I mean, the child doesn't bring themselves in, right? Like, so you're really doing a disservice to the child if you don't understand the family. And as a family physician, we were taught to try to understand the family, child, adult, whatever it is, because that's when you really can treat them. I think it's so wonderful that you're doing what you're doing. Because you found that space for yourself and helping others find that space for them. When you're talking about family and how that interacts, a lot of people, when they're talking about things, Dr. Chauffeur, they talk about this one piece, like they talk about what's happening at work and why that's stressing them out, and don't realize how that can cross over, right? And how if you feel bad about work, it can make you start to feel bad. It starts to color so many things. It just starts to color it all and make you, that stress that may be here starts to eek, its way over here. So when I hear people say the term, I mean, I'll say it because that's what people understand. But when I hear people say the term work-life balance, I'm like, it's all life, right? It's work is a part of life. It's all life. So when I hear them say work-life balance, because they're trying so hard to separate it, but it's not separate. One starts to affect the other. How do you go about helping and teaching parents? Because healthcare professionals can be parents too. How do you go about teaching parents how to manage that so that they can have some balance and not feel so off kilter and really affect the family positively, as a whole?
There are so many aspects to this, and I'm like, which thread are we going to pull?
You know what? Let's pick a thread. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. So part of what I am, hearing in the back of my mind right now is, the Surgeon General was just, within the last 2 weeks, he was identifying the impact of parental stress, the burden of parental stress, and how that's impacting the health of families. And I was like, holy moly, has he been reading my stuff? Like, at the highest level. Yes, absolutely. And then, but a lot of what he's talking about is, looking at, the burden of, childcare, maternal parental leave policies and how they need to change in order to be able to be more supportive of parents. Looking at, jobs and wages and pay gaps. And, there's a lot of really big problems. And I think that part of what needs to be built onto this conversation is nobody's coming to save us. It's not like these, big system problems that he's identifying. They're not going to just change, quite honestly, during the time that we still have kids. Let's definitely address these so that we can keep on making progress. Maybe some things will happen over a few years, maybe by our children's generation of when they're having kids. But we don't throw it all away, because identifying this parental stress is also something that we can look a little bit kind of like upstream of that. What is the stress? It's not all of these things that are going on. The stress is actually what we're experiencing. The stress is the emotional experience. Because, some people, they have jobs that, are all these different hours and they thrive in that. And then someone else has a job with the same number of hours and they're feeling like their soul is being sucked out of them. They're having a very different experience. And so I think it's really looking at the experience that you're having. And that's where I look at that through the lens of emotions. What is it that you're feeling, that you're experiencing? What is the perspective that you have about this situation, whatever is going on? And that's really looking at those internal states. That's where the human side comes in, the human experience that we're having, within all these different systems, within this culture, around work, around family, about thinking that there's somewhere that we're supposed to like find this elusive balance. No. How do we see that it's not one thing versus the other?
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
coming together and recognizing I'm a whole person, and I have times that I need to focus on my work. I have other times that I'm focusing on my family. But you know what? They're both operating in the background. How can we support that you can focus on one thing at a time? Because I don't really think it's a balance. I think it's really like, what is it that I need to focus on right now? I always tell my kids, like, well, even like before, coming on the podcast, I was like, I will not be bothered right now. Okay, whatever it is, unless there's like life, limb, loss of eyesight, like there's like serious risks, serious risk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot be bothered right now because you are my focus right now. And when we're done here, all right, that's out. It's Friday night. It's soccer night, and so we're going out and we're playing. And I'm going to turn off everything from work.
Everything else.
And I'm just going to let it be known. I'm not talking about kids soccer. I'm going out to play soccer because moms play too. So the adult soccer league is fabulous, by the way. Find one near you. Absolutely.
Oh
my goodness.
I think that is such a pearl of, just everything that goes into it, and how you can feel stressed out, but it's the pearl that you said for me, and that I always talk when I talk to other health professionals about what it is that they're going through, is no one's coming to save you. And you said that, I'm like, for some people, and I'll take work as an example, it can seem like F them all. It's what they're doing, right? And that's when you're saying that seems strong, but it actually leaves you in a space of despair because it feels like you don't have any control. Okay. And so when I work with people, when I work with healthcare professionals, when I do workshops, when I'm saying you can not give up all this control. No one is going to give you rest. No one is going to give you a pause. You have to build it. You have to create it. You have to say, "Boop, stop." No one is going to say, you know what, you need to take care of yourself. No, you need to get on that calendar and schedule. No one is going to say you need to manage your stress, right? They're going to say, you did that so well, let's add this to it. Like, you need to be able to say, boop, boundary, hold on now. I don't have the bandwidth for that, so knowing that, but it seems like no one's coming to save you sounds like despair. No, that actually is power, because it means you actually can do something here
And
to
I
take it
think that one of
back.
the big parts in that is separating out when we talk about stress and we talk about these things that are stressing us out. Those are stressors.
Yes.
Those are stressors. And anybody that's looking at my hands are like going, they are out here. The
Mm-hmm.
stress is what you experience. It's what you feel. And it is related to that. However, that is where you get to impact how are you feeling given whatever it is that's going on. And that's where, looking at that psychology, this is totally cognitive behavioral, techniques where you're looking at, well, what is the perspective that I have? What is the experience, the emotions that I'm feeling? And it's right back to Viktor Frankl. He's the one that said that there's a space between stimulus and response. That stimulus is that stressor out here. The response is what we experience. And he says, in that space between those two is where we have all of our power.
Wow. Now I'm going to ask you a question. I don't know how you'll answer this, but I'm going to ask you, Do you feel, Dr. Schofer, that you've managed to burn out proof your career?
Oh, you know what? I think that is a fabulous question. Fabulous question, because I don't know that I want to call it burnout proof.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I see burnout as, you know, again, an emotional experience where it's like on overdrive.
Absolutely.
What I've learned how to do, and I think what I want to share with others, is how are you kind of monitoring along the way what your experience is? And so, kind of like the canary in the coal mine, like, what's your canary that's like, hey, gotta like check this out right now. You gotta watch out. There's something going on here. And so there have definitely been times since I've been doing this work where I'm like, hold on a minute. I notice that I am running myself ragged. Like I keep on going, which is part of my, my burnout story, that I keep on thinking I just need to work harder. And once I get over this hill, it'll be better. It never does. It's never better on the other side of a hill. You
Yeah.
always find another hill. And so I really think of it as getting to know yourself. What is that experience that you're having? So one of the big things for me with burnout was overwhelm. Now,
Absolutely.
I can identify now, okay, that feeling that I have, name it. It is overwhelm. I'm feeling this. What is causing that overwhelm? Like, why am I experiencing this? One of the examples that I had is from COVID. So during that period of time where we went from having like no patients that ever wanted to show up in an urgent care ever because they all thought they were going to get COVID, to where the floodgates just opened up and
Yes.
everybody came back. Everybody was there. And, I would just be standing there documenting, at the computer with my current patient, and I could see the board just increasing, like the number of patients that were coming in. And I could feel that overwhelm, and of course, looking at it, what's behind that? I'm like, I'm never going to get home at night.
Yes.
That's the story for me as I see that. And of course, how it's all related to my approach with family and wanting to sleep. So that's what it meant to me. But then I realized there's nothing I can do about that. I can complain about the system. I can complain about, what hours we have and what's our process and procedure for, all the different patients. I can complain about everything that everybody's coming in for. It doesn't do anything. But I can focus on this one patient that I have right now. I can focus on one thing at a time. And that for me is just an example of how I have been, kind of keeping an eye out for that experience of burnout. I think burnout proofing is a little bit too black and white of a way of putting it. Like, oh, I will never go there again. No, when I start touching on it, I'm like, oh, no, hold on a minute. Let's check out what's going on. So I think it's more of an awareness. And a lot of it comes down to that internal experience. I'm checking in with me like on a neurologic and emotional basis. Like, what am I experiencing right now? What do I need?
Yes.
And then, just being able to ask those questions and answer them in real time. When I was first doing this work, it was doing it after the fact. Like, what could I have used then? It was kind of like debriefing myself, through doing this work. But now I can recognize it in real time. And there are sometimes like, okay, I will keep going with this, but I see what's going on. And other times I'm like, I'm going to hit the brakes because that's what I need. And the other big one is, and I'm going to give myself some sleep because that is totally what I need.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. I love that. That need to be self-aware. And I love your answer because even when I think about it, I'm like, well, if you ever really burnout proof. And if you think you can be, at least for me, I'm like, that's where I could get myself in danger. Right. So I think that self-awareness piece, like I always say, stay woke. Stay woke to how you're feeling, what's going on, what actions you're doing that may have been similar to something you did before that led to to burnout. but also be self-aware when something that used to do well for you, it doesn't work anymore. I tell people all the time, who you were 10 years ago is not who you are today. So something might not work anymore, and that's okay. And it's okay to get rid of it and search for the next thing that's going to work.
Yeah.
But you have to stay aware, stay woke as to how things are going. So I absolutely love that. So let me ask you, can you explain to the best of your ability, to what you feel comfortable, the concept of family in focus and how this is different than other approaches to pediatric and family health?
Oh, I totally feel comfortable with this. This is my baby.
It's your baby. I love the name, family in focus. Love that.
Oh
So
my God.
yes.
And I'm going to tell you, it is something that, we're always trying to figure out names. And I was like, oh, whatever. This is kind of sort of, like, I don't want to focus on other things. I want to focus on the family. But, how do I relay that? I'm like, whatever, just pick a name. And I am growing into it. I'm like, oh my gosh, I was brilliant when I chose.
No, you you are so right. Like, it's so hard to pick a name, and a lot of times you're like, how did we even come up with this craziness? But when you can grow to the name, you're like, wait a minute, I must have been in my element. I must have gone deep.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So I think that there's a number of things with this. So first of all, I started all of my work based off of those concerns that we had in the pediatric office, focusing on the scale, the growth curves, the, eating habits, all this. And I'm like, our focus is in the wrong place. And so that's where the focus part was coming from. I'm like, what is it that I want to focus on? I want to focus on what's working. I want to focus on that relationship, focus on, the concept of what works for the whole family, as opposed to where we're running parents ragged saying, well, you got to do this for this kid and this for that kid. And don't forget, you have 2 more kids back here. And so how can we create an environment that everyone can thrive? And so it was kind of like figuring out the whole part with, yes, I want to keep the family in focus. And I define family a little bit differently. Like, I think family is our basic unit. This is our basic unit structure. It is never the individual person, because
Right.
we are never alone. And it does not have to look like anybody else's definition of family. We get to decide. It can be me and my bestie, my 13-year-old golden retriever. He is my family. He is my family. So, there are plenty of folks who have a home where it is them and their chosen family. There's
Yes.
so many different ways that we look at this. And so I have a lot of people that are like, well, I don't have kids. Can I participate? I'm like, of course, because you still have a family. You are a part of the family. And I think a lot of it is, saying you are not alone in what you're experiencing, in your struggles. And this is a community, a village, a family, how we can support each other along the way. So it's all kind of fitting in, with the naming, but I look at it that I support parents who are stressed. And those stressors are coming from all sorts of different ways. It started off with, I want to be able to really focus on helping them raise a healthy family without all the worry about weight, without all the worry about, mental health and diagnoses, because parents feel like they're stuck amongst, all of these different kind of guidance, different products, all the different things, the different approaches. And it's like, well, hold a minute. Let's help connect with parents so they don't feel stuck. I want to help them be able to sleep better at night, knowing that they are able to take care of themselves and be present for their children in a way that they want to be.
So many different approaches, by the way. I remember when people started to talk about gentle parenting.
Mm-hmm.
And this caused a stir because when people started to, I was like, well, what is that? And when And I really heard about it online. And then some people were like, yes, that's what you're supposed to do. And other people were like, this is why your kids go right. And I was just like, right. And then there were people in the middle who felt like, well, if I don't do it this way, does that make, like it just caused such a stir. But then you hear about tiger parenting, then you hear about this parenting, and it's like, oh my God, I'm the good enough parent because I'm the good enough parent. I don't, all of that. I didn't know anything about being a parent before I became a parent. And I'm just learning as I go. And every time these kids get to the next age, now I got to learn some new stuff.
You're like, oh man, oh, I thought I was done with this.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's so funny what you said about family and how, just like I tell people, you can build, if you don't have a built-in support system, you can build support. You can build family too. And when you were talking, it reminded me of the first year I was married. So we got married in July. And I take a picture and I send out these cards. And on the bottom, I don't have the same last name as my husband, but I had my husband's last name and family, right? So ex family. I cannot tell you how many of my family and friends laughed when they got their card. They were like, what do you mean? There's only two of you. I was like, and we're married. Thank you very much. And we're family. Thank you. What do you mean? Like they laugh. I was like, is this strange to call us family just because there's two? So now that there's four, it's legitimate to everybody.
I think we must have exchanged Christmas cards because I do the exact same thing. It's like I just say the whatever family, no matter how many people are in that household. And
Right.
it's just whatever, like your family. Absolutely.
Yes. So I love that. And I love the concept of, and a family doesn't just have to be, blood. A family can be built. It's who is your family, so, and you want that relationship to work well. And that takes, the operative word is work. It does take work, but it can be so enjoyable when you do put that time in, what you get out of it.
And I've heard, it's kind of funny how much research you do on names before you settle down with one. And I had folks questioning a couple of years after I selected the name, and they were asking me about my affiliation with other organizations that have maybe a similar name. And I was
Okay.
like, no, hold on. This is why I do this. I'm my own, you're looking at Family in Focus right now. You're looking at it. But, how I'm really looking at challenging those preconceived notions of what a family looks like and really talking about how we can be inclusive of all of the definitions, all of the experiences that we have as a family, and
Yeah.
how that's also, the whole thing about creating that safety at home is being open to different experiences that we're having. And so, I really look at, inclusivity is one of my, guiding principles. Like, how can I make this an experience that we can recognize that we all have different experiences, different perspectives, and yet you're still welcome here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Would
actually,
you
that's
be
what makes
willing?
it better. Like, it's not even you're still welcome here. I just caught myself saying it. Like, that's even what makes us better because
Yes.
we are not staying within kind of these silos of saying this is the way it's always been.
And this is the way it always has to be.
Oh gosh, yes.
Absolutely. Would you be willing to tell us one or two techniques that you recommend that individuals, adults, parents, um, how they can foster, like, two techniques that they can foster, like, and that emotional regulation that you talk about for
Yeah,
themselves and for
yeah.
the rest of the family?
I would first off love to say to anyone that's saying, I want to learn more about emotional regulation, rock on. Like that is right there,
Yeah.
identifying the core of it. I was asked to contribute to to the local school district is expanding their social emotional learning for students. And I said, hold the phone. You're teaching wonderful things to these children, but they're going home and the parents are like, what are you talking about? You get to feel your feelings. Not in my household, because that's not the way that we learn. And so it's really looking at, if you're saying, hey, I need to learn more about this. Yes, we all do, because this is just not the way that we were raised.
Yeah.
And so honestly, I think that is my life's work, to be able to work with parents, to work with adults about expanding our emotional vocabulary, to be able to understand our understanding of what it is that we're experiencing and why. And so I would say the first thing is just saying, that's awesome. Yes, you're on the right path. And then I think one of the other big things is just we have to slow down in order to be able to really start getting into this work. If we're trying to go right from, okay, well, I see this, I need to learn about emotional regulation, let's fix it. That's just the way our brains work. We're always kind of looking at what's the problem? How can I fix it so that I can live to see another day? And that just kind of puts us into this mode where we're kind of like coming to conclusions like, this is it. I'm just going to put the blinders on and focus on this and get it done. But this is life's work. This is something where we can't just say, okay, it's fixed, move on. How can we
Even more so when you're a medical professional, even more so when you're like a physician, let's fix it. Let's fix it now.
So I got to tell you, so much of the work that I'm doing, I think, is unlearning so much that I learned from medicine and my medical training. And by the way, I totally I love evidence. I love science. I love all the things. I think that there's a lot in our culture that we have learned. Our culture, I'm talking about the medical culture, the hierarchy of education and all the things. Somebody somewhere has the answer. And to be honest with you, we are all creating the evidence every single day. When I first started off with, my family and focus program, everybody's asking, as I'm talking with doctors, there's like, what's the evidence for the program? I said, I'm creating it. I'm creating it. This hasn't been done before. And so let's look at that. And by the way, I totally received that. Thank you.
Because that's how we're socialized. It's not going to work if you can't show me right now, but how can I show you right now if we don't work it?
Right. Oh my goodness.
So good. So good.
So slow down and start experimenting. Just try one little thing. Maybe it's saying, you know what, I'm going to just sit here right now and kind of feel, what is this disappointment? What is this? What is this feeling I have in my body? Because we can't rush through it. Yeah. As we talk about, we can have a whole different discussion about like processing and really feeling emotions, but we have to slow down to be able to name it and actually be there with it. We can't rush to the good part. This is the good part where we get to experience and really understand what it is that we're going through.
Excellent. That's wonderful. I love that. I do love it. I want to see what you come up with. Like, I am definitely going to be checking in and saying, so what did you find? What were your findings, right? What's the white paper on this, I have a 2-part question. How do you define success for yourself and success for your families?
Man, I love that because I keep on coming back to, my goal, which, is that success. I want to help parents be able to sleep better. You notice how it all comes back to sleep,
right?
To be able to say, yes, I can take this time for me to be able to sleep, to give myself what it is that I need, but also to not be laying there worrying about all the things in their lives. I joked around for a long time that I see my job as a parental anxiety buster. And I'm like, well, I don't know that those are the exact words, but it's like, how can I help parents relieve that stress, whatever it is that they're experiencing right now. Because when parents are in a good place for themselves, that's when they can help the whole family. And so I'm the pediatrician that actually works with adults. I'm the pediatrician that's working, at supporting the whole family. My local hospital, says it's all about the kids. Okay, yes, I agree with you. and
And
and it's actually all about the family
and exactly. It's all
Good.
about the
I
family
love you.
unit.
I have that catchphrase in my head, and I'm not trying to diss any marketing. It is totally about the kids, but not to the detriment of the parents. That's how we've looked at it for so long, that we are just bleeding ourselves dry and we don't have what we need.
Right.
And so it's really looking at what is it that we as parents, as individuals, need to take care of ourselves. I got to find who this person is. I just saw a reel the other day because I am totally still on Facebook. That's actually how we connected. But
yeah,
anyway,
I'm on Facebook too.
But I saw this reel where it was a clip of a gentleman that was on the Drew Barrymore show. And I gotta find who he is, because he said, imagine that you, as a young child, that you are given a baby, and that you are told that it is your responsibility to take care of this baby, that you provide for everything that it needs. You make sure that it does well, that it succeeds. And he said, you are the baby. You are the one. So imagine that when you were younger, you were told your only job is to take care of this one being. He's like, we're always told that we have to take care of all these other things and all these other people, but nobody's taking care of us. It's your job. It's your job. And I was like, bristled a little bit when he said it's your job, because I'm like, oh, that's just one more thing on the list. But it's like, no, that's the only thing.
Yeah.
It's actually the only thing when we start here and not looking at it as a task to complete. But this is where like all the energy kind of emanates from us. Okay, well, of course, I want to treat myself with love and taking care and compassion. And just like if I were like doing it out here to like this dear, sweet little child that I want to, grow and see them thrive. Well, that's me.
Yes.
That's me. We can, take that in. So anyway.
Absolutely. No, because I agree with you. And it's one of the things that I teach people. I'm like, you have to prioritize yourself. I know that sounds crazy to people because we weren't all, first of all, women often aren't taught to prioritize themselves, right?
You're completely taught the opposite.
That's
specialization. It's all about people pleasing and being able to care for others.
That's right.
All that we have as caregivers. It doesn't talk about caring for us.
It doesn't talk about caring for yourself. And I'm like, so when I say to people, or when I used to, I think they get it now. And I'm like, no, I come first. And they're like, what? And I was like, no, I come first. Like, how can I not come first? Take care of me so that when my children can be the beneficiaries of that and they can grow, but I have to come first. If I'm not taking care of inner me and making sure that I'm rested and making sure that I'm at least happy. And when I was in the space where I was burning out, that's exactly what happened. I wasn't happy and they were like, okay. And I used to always say, people are like, oh, that's daddy's little girl. I said, yeah, daddy's little boy too. And it's because they were getting closer to my husband, which I thought was a wonderful thing, but not as close to me because mom was the disciplinarian. I'm still probably the disciplinarian, but less so. Like, I do fun things, so I see now where they crowd around me more, and I wouldn't give that up for anything, but almost did. Right. So, yes, you have to prioritize your well-being. And I'm telling physicians that and, telling other medical professionals, and it goes against everything we learned. It does.
That doesn't mean it's wrong. It's actually saying this is the path. Keep going.
Keep going.
Yeah.
Keep going. Now, my last question for you as we wrap up, right? You've done this, you've been through this, you've gotten an excellent education, you're giving care, you work in great places. You've also experienced some adverse things that you have learned from. And I think that's the beauty. If you can learn and grow from something, all is not lost, right? So what advice would you give to other healthcare professionals who want to be able to build up, learn, and be able to support their families in a positive way, in a fun way? Like, what is the piece of advice you would give them?
Yeah. I would say really it starts out with saying, getting that support that you need, because I don't know what that looks like for you,
Mm-hmm.
but you're not alone. And I think so much of, our approach right now is kind of saying, well, what happens between, within these four walls of this house is your business here and your business. And we're like all separate in these different homes. And we're all experiencing the same struggles. We are. I mean, different varieties of it, but it's kind of like, we're all having this, need for ice cream, just of different flavors. And maybe that analogy didn't work so well. I'll keep on trying. We're all experiencing the same, hunger, the same needs, but it's just something where we get to be able to say, you know what? This is what I need right now, and seeking those connections, because there are plenty of us that can help to be able to support. You have local community resources. I so often hear from parents about how they say, I don't have a village. I'm like, oh, you do. You just haven't recognized it yet. You haven't mobilized it yet. And
Build
so
it.
we can't go around saying that I don't have a village, because as soon as you say that, you're not seeing
Mm-hmm.
all those folks that are like, hey, I'm here, or even tapping on other people that weren't even aware that they were part of the village,
Right, right.
like that neighbor who's very introverted and doesn't come out, but is like totally willing to help out once they've been tapped on. They just
Mm-hmm.
need to be called up to the big leagues.
Yeah.
How do we do that? And so I think that, recognizing this is what I need and starting to look for those supports. And it can be something, as we're talking about, healthcare, we can look at, the EAP programs. We can look at, our colleagues at work, like having open, vulnerable conversations about, what, this is what I'm going through right now. The more that
Yeah.
we can be vulnerable, it's not about showing weakness at all. It's about saying, this is what I'm experiencing. This is what I need. And I think the more that we can recognize what we need and then be able to communicate with others how they can help us with that, that's where we get our strength. We're starting to like send out, these tentacles and the threads to be able to get it all woven in together. And so, it can start right there at home in your community. And then there's plenty of us that are also in the larger community, in the virtual community as
Yeah.
well. That there's so many different ways to be able to connect. And, like you're talking about with, emotional regulation and learning about emotions. Oh, absolutely. By the way, I got you. I totally got you.
Yeah.
It's something that, there's plenty of supports out there, just recognizing, yes, this is what I need. This is what's important to me right now.
I think that's wonderful. And I think the beauty of it is a lot of what you are teaching to families, to parents, is not just going to help them in the home, it's going to help them at large, and I think that's wonderful. Dr. Chauffeur, this has been such a pleasure. Like, I can do this for another hour. I want you to be able to play soccer. Where can people find you?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so I'm going to trust that you're going to spell out my name in the show notes for people to just be able to
Yes.
click the link. But come
Yes.
on over to my website. So it's the W's, www.wendychauffeurmd.com. Chauffeur is Schofer.
Yeah.
The one thing that kind of gets a little glitch there, but you can find out so much more about my family and focus programs, which include the signature program, which is a group working together, creating that community and that village as we are working through those stressors that we're experiencing about raising a healthy family. I also have individual work that I do. I also have a couple things that are going live in just the next couple of weeks. And so you're going to find out about the Emotions Lab, which is a self-paced a course that parents can take to learn so much more about emotions in bite-sized pieces. By the way, there's also improv games that are a part of that because let's play some games. That's how we can really kind of
Yes.
learn and explore. And, it's about experimenting. And the cool thing about that is that there's also application sessions. So it's a self-paced course and you're going to be able to meet up and talk about how do I do this in my unique family with wherever I am facing, I want to use this at work. I want to use this, on my own health, in my own relationships. And then lastly, I also have the Family in Focus Health. I'm actually opening up my own private practice. And so
Congratulations.
I just got the paperwork done this week. So that's so much more to come. So all of it is, if you go to my website, you'll be able to find all the different paths. It's like, what do you call it? Air traffic control. You can go everywhere.
That is excellent. That's excellent. And is there anywhere people can see you in improv?
Well, anywhere I am, but
Anywhere.
So actually, let's quick talk about that for a moment because I'm in the Hampton Roads area. So that's around Norfolk, Virginia. And my home studio is there. It's the Push Comedy Theater on Granby Street in Norfolk, Virginia. Okay. And I got to tell you that it's something where it's not just about doing it on stage. Yes, I go there. Yes, I perform. But I take the lessons from improv and I'm always improving. That's the whole thing. Improv is life.
Yes,
So,
absolutely.
I'm using improv when I'm speaking at conferences. Mm-hmm. I'm using improv, throughout my program. I'm using it in the office. I'm using it with my family. It's just, this is how we're kind of rolling. We're having some fun with it. And I challenge that it's something that we can use these tools, not just to be able to get up on stage, but to be able to see how this applies in so many other areas of our life. This is real adult education. How can we take something and use it somewhere else? It's not just about staying in that silo. So please come and see me. And yes, and there's another improv thing. But yes, come and see me. And we can also do this everywhere we go. So that's my challenge to everyone and why I'm, infusing these improv games and, teaching about the rules of improv to healthcare providers, because that way they can start using it, not necessarily to get on stage. Hey, if you want to, that's cool, but to just make life so much better. I don't know. What is the tagline? Life made better through, I'm going to say improv.
Yes. No, absolutely. I used to say that all the time. I'm like, I should have a SAG card because I feel like I improv at every room that I used to go into, right? You're like winging it. Like, yes, you have the knowledge, but you're walking in the door, not necessarily know what somebody's going to say next. You're like winging it.
I've always been winging it. We are all winging it. Can we just acknowledge that? Like,
yes.
Permission of knowing I don't have to follow this script. I don't have to be this set, person walking into the room. I can wing it. I can see what's working, what's not working.
Yes, absolutely.
Little tiny experiments all along the way, just as we're having a conversation here today. We're improving it, folks.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauffeur. This was so great. And for all of you, please, reach out to Dr. Chauffeur if you want to learn more about how to improve relationships in your family, improve health and emotional regulation. But but just all of the pearls that were dropped here, we can all use in our everyday to allow ourselves to be more balanced so that we can be more excellent, so that we can perform at a higher level and not feel so doggone stressed out about it. Okay, so thank you all. Again, if you're still with us, thank you. Like, subscribe, and share, and we will see you next time.
And there's so much more
Bye.
coming with season 2. Keep going.
Yes. Yes. Bye for now.